This podcast is produced in part by Podfly.net. Podfly, passion for great-sounding podcasts.
The views and opinions expressed during this program are not necessarily those of Overseas Radio Network or broadcast partners. All information provided is for educational purposes only. Before taking action, consult a licensed professional.
The Coast to Coast.
Check 1, 2. Testing.
Now hear me.
You're listening to This Week in Costa Rica.
Once the volume control is set, do not readjust.
On the Overseas Radio Network.
That's why I want you to go on the radio.
This Week in Costa Rica, bringing you the latest information from expats, experts, and people just like you who chose to escape, retire, and live in Costa Rica.
Listen and decide in your own mind what sounds best.
Got a question? A comment?
They have to be dealt with on an altogether different level.
Or just want to talk to an expert on living in Costa Rica?
Oh, brother, what a way to make a living.
Give us a call now.
Hello?
Lines are open and your answers are just one phone call away.
Now, if you have some suggestions to offer, we're willing to listen to you.
Ready?
This Week in Costa Rica, with your host,
Who you?
Corey Coates.
Hello, folks. It's showtime.
Hi, this is Corey. Thanks for tuning in today. info@thisweekincostarica.com is our email. Big show for you today. My special guest, the Nomad capitalist, Andrew Henderson, coming up. If you want to do business abroad, you want to listen to this show. Lisle Head, Dan Stevens, whole bunch more. Stick around, guys.
So you want to jump out your trick bag and ease on into hip bag, but you ain't just exactly sure what's hip.
You're tuned in to overseasradio.com, your online radio resource about life abroad.
We know you want to grow your business and directly engage your customers and clientele. Podcasting is the way to go, and Podfly has your solution. Whether you're a blogger, writer, business owner, entrepreneur, or service provider, Podfly makes it easy for anyone to have a professionally produced and distributed podcast. Get started today at podfly.net and let's get your message truly heard. Podfly.net, passion for great-sounding podcasts.
You're listening to the Overseas Radio Network, the exclusive online radio station for the expatriate community.
This Week in Costa Rica is hosted by Canadian entrepreneur Corey Coates. Corey has been living and working as a professional in Costa Rica for over 5 years.
Oh, I've been lost in my own place, and I'm getting with it.
He's built a vast network of professional connections to help you with everything from immigration to relocation. Call in or send Corey an email to talk about the steps you need to take in making your dream of living in paradise a reality.
Welcome to This Week in Costa Rica, right here on the Overseas Radio Network. My name is Corey, as that guy just said. The website is www.thisweekincostarica.com. That's where you can find the email, the Facebook, the Twitter, the Google Plus, and everything if you want to get a hold of us during, after, or even before this program. I want to report a little bit of great news here for those who listened last week. We had Matt and Sandy in. And as you may recall, if you caught last week's show, Sandy is on her second application to get a Canadian visitor's visa so that she can go up as a Canadian's wife and visit her friends and family, or his friends and family, I should say. Well, congratulations to Matt and Sandy. Obviously, someone in Guatemala was listening because they got that visa and are going up for Christmas. So we're super happy for them. And I'm super happy for me because I'm sitting here in the studio looking across it. There's Lisle Head. How you doing, man?
It's another wonderful day.
God, it's incredible here. Now we're kind of rolling into the high season.
Oh, and the weather's just been, you can feel the heat when you're riding your bike or you're cruising through town right now.
Absolutely beautiful. Well, I'm sitting here in the AC, but what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I got to say, man, I didn't make it out because one, I'm not an American, and two, I had some friends in town. But I understand the pizza shop did a Thanksgiving potluck that was pretty much off the hook.
Yeah, I mean, we had everything. I mean, from elk to ribs to turkey.
Where in the world did you get elk?
Yeah, well, Joe, one of the guys, brought an elk, a big elk roast.
Oh, my God, that's incredible. So a lot of the community kind of pulled together on Thanksgiving, got all the expats together, American or non, to give thanks and to feast at the pizza shop.
There was at least 50 people when I left.
That's incredible. I was down there just 2 days ago. He's got a ping pong table So I'm going to have to go down and kick his ass at some ping pong, I think.
Those kids can play some ping pong.
Yeah, no kidding. Did you happen to catch the big tope on the 30th?
It was as crazy as always. They started late, like they always do.
Yeah.
It's never on time. But good times. The kids love it. You know, they lit the park up too. The park got all lit up on Saturday night as well. So that was nice.
Yeah, incredible. I got out in the street and of course watched it. I snapped some photos, which I might go ahead and put up on the website as well. But really, really great. Super family friendly. Really, really nice to see here in town. And, I'm really excited because I've got a couple friends from the Central Valley who are now moving here to Jacó. This happens every single time, man. Somebody comes out for a quick visit to catch up and see how I'm doing. And they spend a day or two here and they say, I don't see any reason why I wouldn't move to the beach and live here in Jacó.
Sold.
Yeah, it's all it takes.
No, it's unbelievable. Me and you were talking the other day, just how magical it is.
Well, that's kind of it too. I mean, their primary concern being is that they have a 4-year-old daughter, and like any other family, they worry about housing, security, and education, and of course finding a good job here. But it's taken them almost zero time to find all of those things easily, and now they have a happy 4-year-old running around the beach every day, and they themselves are a lot less stressed and happier.
It's good to be around those people and keep reminding yourself how good we have it.
I think that's exactly right because, we go back to the valley from time to time because we have to do whatever business in San Jose. Normally for me, that just means going to Price Mart and buying pickles, but, we do have to do our things. And now that you're here again at the beach, it's sort of like it's a quiet, gentle reminder of why you're here in the first place. And I just have to say, if you do not have to live in the valley, I don't know why you would.
Yeah, if you can live on the beach, you should do it.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know what those funny noises coming out of the mixing desk are today, but I guess that's probably an indication that we got to get going on some stuff. Look, I got some pastrami sandwiches I'm going to make. I'm going to take a little bit of a break here. I've got Dan Stevens from the Costa Rican Times coming up. But Lisle, it's always great to see you here in studio, and I'm looking forward to catching up on more stuff.
For sure, man. Have a good week.
Don't go anywhere, guys. Dan Stevens coming up next. And my very special guest, Andrew Henderson, the Nomad Capitalist. All this and more on This Week in Costa Rica, only on the Overseas Radio Network.
So you want to jump out your trick bag and ease on into hip bag, but you ain't just exactly sure what's hip.
Pack your bags and explore the world with us. You're listening to the Overseas Radio Network.
The Costa Rica Star is a leading English-language news website covering all things Costa Rica, offering publishing 7 days per week with access to articles and photos on your smartphone or laptop devices. Subscribe to the Costa Rica Star daily email newsletter by visiting www.news.co.cr or find us on Facebook and Twitter. The Costa Rica Star, serving English-speaking Ticos and expats in Costa Rica.
Just finished school? Newly retired? Looking for a change? Get certified to teach English and move abroad like thousands do every year. Global TESOL College comes to Costa Rica, the global organization that trains and certifies more ESL instructors than any other organization of its kind. For the past 15 years, we've trained and certified over 40,000 graduates in the field of TESOL. Live the dream of staying and studying at the beach. You will be living at one of our beautifully centrally located accommodation options in Jacó Beach on Costa Rica's Pacific coast. With a school, beach, and great restaurants all within walking distance, in a safe community with all the convenience of back home, discover why so many choose to earn their teaching certificate in Jacó Beach, Costa Rica. Visit us today for more information at www.globaltesolcostarica.com. That's global, TESOL, Costa Rica.com. Mention this ad when you enroll and receive $50 off your tuition. Enroll with a friend and receive $100 off. The world is waiting for you, and Global TESOL College is your ticket.
Are you tired of the rising cost of living in the so-called free world? Feel like your dollar just isn't getting you much anymore? As an internationally minded person, you know there are places in the world where you can experience a better lifestyle for less money. Imagine lapping up waves on a pristine sunny beach on a Tuesday afternoon. This could be your life. You can find more freedom and a better lifestyle without breaking the bank. But just where are these places? Announcing your passport to freedom. We've assembled the world's top experts on living abroad into one jam-packed, super informative event in fabulous Las Vegas. At this 3-day event, you'll hear firsthand from people who have actually lived this lifestyle. Passport to Freedom will open your eyes to a life beyond your home country's borders. You don't have to be a slave to your location. Reserve your seat at this 3-day all-access event and learn everything you need to know to get started. Seats are very limited, so go to passportoverseas.com and grab your seat before it's too late. Plus, Overseas Radio listeners get a special 50% discount, but you have to go to passportoverseas.com now. That's passportoverseas.com for your passport to freedom.
Your expatriation destination. This is overseasradio.com.
What? What is it? This week in Costa Rica. Fun, informative, and your questions answered. Talk live with one of our on-air experts and start living your dream now.
And welcome back to This Week in Costa Rica. Big thanks to Lisle for stopping in today. Sorry I had to duck out early there, get myself a pastrami sandwich. Delicious stuff. Nice pickle on it. A little bit of cheese. Jealous? You should be. You know what else you should be jealous of? I'm talking to Dan Stevens right now from the Costa Rican Times. How you doing?
I'm super. Still recovering from Black Friday and the Tope and Jacó and, that Alabama-Auburn game.
I don't even really want to talk about it. Look, well, maybe you do a little bit. This year, because some of my compatriots are from Alabama, and they kind of got me into Alabama football. But I've got to say, since I started watching it, it's been pretty darn boring. I didn't realize that basically what they do is they just trounce over every team that they play. There's maybe 2 or 3 good games a year, but what a game this weekend.
Yeah, that was an amazing finish to a heck of a game. There was plays during the whole time where if they had just kicked a field goal on a 4th and 1 or gone for it here and there, it would have made a complete difference, but it was a heck of a finish.
I got to say, I'm no fan of Foster right now. I don't know. It would have been a completely different game if he had kicked it in the... it's a field goal. That's what you're... Anyway, I don't want to get into this. I'm a little bit upset. Even to the point, who goes for like a 53-yard finish? That's insane.
With a backup field goal kicker that's kicked 2 all year. So,
all right. Well, this is This Week in Costa Rica, not This Week in Alabama, but I guess congratulations to Auburn, because I also have a lot of friends who are fans of the Tigers. So it was pretty tough.
Sounds good. Well, anyway, let's jump into some Costa Rican news. Quick question for you. I know you have a little more information than I do on this because you do a lot more research on it with your expats. But FATCA, which was enacted in 2010, is actually taking effect in July of 2014. And it seems that Costa Rica is now ready to share their bank account information with the U.S. I don't know. I'm kind of in a toss-up about this. I think that this is going to. I never would say that you shouldn't pay your taxes, but it just seems like Big Brother's good, putting his hands out everywhere.
Yes and no. Here's kind of the thing. As I mentioned earlier in the show today, I'm going to be speaking with Andrew Henderson right after this, and he is the Nomad capitalist, and this guy specializes in foreign asset protection. I think he's actually somewhere in Malaysia right now, so I'm looking forward to speaking with him on this. But the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act basically is an agreement that's been signed between a lot of these Central American nations and the United States in order to share with the Internal Revenue Service some of the bank account information of some of the Americans who are living abroad. And I agree with this because, when you think about places like the Costa Rica and the Cayman Islands, you start to think about these tax havens. And it kind of stirs up these emotions of, hey, these are people who are hiding money from the government in secret bank accounts offshore. This is certainly in some cases the situation, but in most it is not. So now basically what they're going at is, look, anything that is over $50,000 in these bank accounts, they're going to report it back to the United States, which as an American, you should be doing anyway. They're just making it a lot easier for the IRS to get their eyeballs on that information.
Yeah, sounds good. I mean, I'm just looking at it. Are they doing this in Costa Rica and like Caymans because that's where the sportsbook industry has basically been based, or are they doing this for tax purposes in the States? And there. I mean, for me, I'm in a conundrum about it because I mean, a lot of these offshore gambling sports books, et cetera, are making a crap load of money. It's for me, they're based in Costa Rica. They're based in the Caymans. They actually have their offices in these places. They're not like they're not like they're U.S. based businesses. And because the money is coming offshore from the U.S., I guess see it as a way going, oh well, let's pay for that healthcare.gov site. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's something to that. We've mentioned before on this show, and this is covered pretty thoroughly on the Overseas Radio Network as well, is that, look, the American government right now is going around and turning over stones worldwide, looking for any kind of additional tax revenue that they can get. Because, we all know the U.S. government needs cash. And at the end of the day, the law is the law. If you have foreign earned income or you do have money offshore, you are to report that to the U.S. government. So really all they're doing here is they're saying, look, let's put together some sort of agreement with many of these countries so that the banks volunteer that information. What I will get into with Andrew today is what is the consequence of something like this as an American abroad looking to open a foreign bank account, and what sort of complications are you going to encounter as a result of it? Look, for the Americans, it's pretty easy. It's just a form that you fill out or your accountant fills out and they report it. In many cases, I think it's anything over $10,000 US in a foreign bank account, you do have to report that back. But now it's the $50,000 mark and above, they're going to automatically report that for you.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, I mean, no, I understand why it's set up. It's just for me, I feel like I'm reading the book 1984 more and more every day. So
yeah, I know what you're saying, and I kind of get that. I also sort of sometimes sit in the camp that says, look, if you're worried about this, then maybe you should be worried about it. If that makes any sense, it's sort of that. If you have nothing to hide, then you have nothing to worry about. However, I do appreciate very much the position of a lot of U.S. citizens in terms of their freedom and whether or not this information should be something that's volunteered or something that is automatically extracted by the government. So I get that. I totally do.
Right, understood. And I guess I need to claim that 10,000 under your mattress, right, too?
No, that's fine. That's fine. That's
okay.
That's all in colones. That's a private residence. Don't you worry about it. Your money's all safe and sound here, bud.
All right, sounds good. Anyway, off that topic, I actually saw something really funny, or it made me laugh a couple of days ago. Laura Chinchilla has been given an award for being a shark protector.
Yeah, I don't get this. Okay, look, I loosely follow all of the horrific stuff that's happening with shark finning, and we've talked about it many times on this show. But it's interesting to me because I don't necessarily look at her as a champion for stopping this type of practice. Quite the opposite. So I understand some sort of an organization or some sort of German thing has given her award as being like the shark queen. I don't know, what is this thing.
Yeah, she is the shark queen of the ball. No, basically this German organization called Shark Project gives an international award for the Shark Guardian, and for 2013 it was Laura Chinchilla because of her quote policies to boost protection of marine resources and their fight against finning of the sharks. However, for me, it's just kind of a joke because, okay, they put together this minister of the water and the seas, which has done absolutely nothing. Inco Pesca, one of the presidents and one of the runners, people that was in charge at one of the ports, has been busted for being actually involved with shark finning. And there's a loophole in the law which says as long as the fins are attached to the spine of the shark, then they can bring these carcasses onto shore. And they went to the UN and they basically said, hey, this is what's going on. This is the loophole we see. But instead of fixing it, they just said, hey, this is what's going on. I mean, for me, it's ironic that, I mean, with all the things going on, with Sea Shepherd and Captain Watson coming on land in the United States, and then right after that, Costa Rica asking for extradition. And then right after that, Japan all of a sudden giving a $560 million loan for geothermal energy. Yes, I've got my tinfoil hat on as well right now.
Yeah.
So it just seems ridiculous to me that so many organizations around the world are basically falling for this smoke and mirrors that Chinchilla and her administration are putting forward.
Yeah, I mean, I do sit here and I tend to, as is the nature of humankind, see if we can connect the dots a little bit. But definitely when I saw that article float by, I thought to myself, this is not the award that I think that she deserves at this moment. But here we go again. At the very least, it continues to do what you and I have always said, and that's bring attention to the issue and keep the conversation going on this thing. The longer we talk about this, the more it's going to get the exposure that it deserves worldwide. And even if this award is of a somewhat farcical nature that she received it, at the very least, it means that there are people talking about it, and that's where this whole thing begins. There's not an overnight solution, but the long curve does show that if we get enough people involved, then maybe this practice will eventually stop, or at least be curbed, so that it's not so darn damaging to the shark populations out there.
Right, I agree, and I mean, with the people that on Jairo Mora's murder suspects going into jail for at least another 3 months, and at least we can raise awareness for these issues that are going on in Costa Rica, and hopefully bring some closure and some changes here.
Yep, I mean that's really all we can do at the end of the day. Now, look, on a lighter note here, I think there's something going on in Costa Rica that you were talking about with me. But I'm really excited about now that I hear this idea that some sort of an adventure race is taking place.
Yeah, there's basically an adventure race world championship. It starts today here Monday the 2nd. And we're looking at having about 260 contestants that line up on the border between Panama and Costa Rica. And they participate in this adventure race world championship, which includes biking, rafting, trekking, rappelling, and kayaking nonstop. They basically go over 815-kilometer route throughout Costa Rica. The winning team usually takes about 140 hours over 6 to 7 days to complete the trek. And one of the directors of it, Antonio de la Rosa, said basically, if you sleep, you lose time. Mm-hmm. So it's a pretty intense 6 to 7 day venture throughout Costa Rica, and I'm pretty excited to find out more about it and maybe get some video of it.
Sounds great. I'm looking forward to you guys doing some research over there. We have been speaking with Dan Stevens from the Costa Rican Times, and of course I'm going to put links to all the stories that we talked about today on This Week in Costa Rica, so you can read what these guys have to say about it. I got Andrew Henderson coming up, the Nomad Capitalist, next. We're going to talk a little bit of FATCA, asset protection, and what the heck is going on with all that stuff. In the meantime, I'm going to take another bite of my big pastrami sandwich here. Thank you so much, Dan, for your time today.
Thanks a lot, Corey. Have a great week.
All right, you're listening to This Week in Costa Rica, only on the Overseas Radio Network.
So you want to jump out your trick bag and ease on into hip bag, but you ain't just exactly sure what's hip.
Sit back and relax. You are tuned into the Overseas Radio Network.
I'm speaking with Adalberto Rodriguez from the marketing department of Costa Rica Tourism. And Adalberto, it's such a beautiful country, full of nature, full of wonderful things. And tell us some of the events that are happening year-round in Costa Rica.
One of the most important ones that we have is the Festival of Lights. This is celebrated in Christmas, and it's basically to celebrate Christmas. So we have a lot of parades, we have music, and we have lots of celebration, lots of colors at night, almost 1 million attendees every day. And it's such a great place to visit, such a great event to experience.
And as we were saying before in our conversation here, it's easy to fly in and fly out. San Jose is the main area, the main city, and people can just get here very, very easily.
It's very easy indeed. They can actually take a flight to London to Madrid and then fly non-stop from Madrid to San Jose. The other option is to use the Liberia International Airport with easy connections via the United States.
Tell us about the nature and the animals and some of the fantastic things they can see and do here.
We have a lot of animals in Costa Rica. Just to mention a few examples, the people from England can see lots of red macaws, they can see whales and dolphins, and they can also experience the nestling of sea turtles in the Tortuguero area.
Beautiful. And what are some of your favorite picks for someone who is an expert on the country?
Well, for example, if you would like to visit for 10 days, my recommendation it would be to see a little bit of the ocean, a little bit of the volcanoes and the national parks that we have, and stay a couple of nights in San Jose so you can also experience the museums and the cultural activities that we have to offer. So, for example, for a 10-day trip, you can go visit Monteverde Cloud Forest, the Arenal area, so you can take a few warm baths at the waters of the volcano. And you can also see San Jose with the coffee tours, experience some bird watching in the morning, and then go to the beach and relax.
And I believe the monetary thing is quite good because you get a hell of a lot of value for your dollar or euro or pound in Costa Rica.
That's exactly right. For example, 1 pound is almost 800 colones, which is our national currency. So you get a very good value out of your money.
And how can people find more about Costa Rica online, Adalberto?
They can visit us all the time at visitcostarica.com.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for being with us on the program this week.
You're very welcome, and I hope to see you again in Costa Rica.
Live call-in shows and hosts from your favorite countries. This is the Overseas Radio Network.
You know what I just heard?
What? Costa Rica has the reputation of being the happiest country on earth.
But it gets better.
This Week in Costa Rica brings you the best information.
The best.
From the people who understand why so many choose to call this beautiful place home. Bringing you the latest information from expats, experts, and people just like you who chose to escape, retire, and live in Costa Rica. This Week in Costa Rica. Pura Vida.
Welcome back to This Week in Costa Rica. Big thanks, as always, to Dan Stevens from the Costa Rican Times. Always good to chit-chat about this and that with him. Yes, I just finished my pastrami sandwich. For those that are tweeting me right now and pinging me, it was delicious. I'll give you the recipe, maybe on thisweekincostarica.com. And carrying on with our conversation about global asset protection and, of course, all the concerns that are happening around the deal that was signed between Costa Rica and the U.S. and the Cayman Islands in the U.S. This was forthcoming for FATCA, which means, as many of you Americans know, is the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act. I thought I'd get on the horn right now. A friend of mine and a colleague, Andrew Henderson, a perpetual traveler, international entrepreneur, and a self-proclaimed citizen of the world, as well as weekly syndicated radio show host. Andrew, how are you?
It's great to be with you, Corey. I'm doing well, coming to you right now from Jakarta, Indonesia, where here in Southeast Asia, so much going on and so many opportunities. So I'm glad to be with you to talk about it all.
Yeah, I appreciate your time today. I know you're super busy and you're always on a plane or somewhere. I have to say, I really enjoy following the Nomad Capitalist on Facebook for nothing else, just to see where you tag yourself.
No, it's, I've flown in the last couple of years close to 1 million miles, racked up tons of frequent flyer miles. I'm on trains and buses and all sorts of things. So it's quite a journey, but I'm reporting the information so that people, and obviously you are as well, people know that there are other options out there.
It's interesting because, you practice what you say as the art of nonconformity. I'm kind of interested, and I think a lot of the listeners would be as well. What spawned you to kind of get on that plane in the first place and get the heck out of the U.S. and look for investment opportunities abroad?
Well, it's funny. I think that I look at the idea of liberty from a chicken and egg perspective is, are you a libertarian first? Are you a capitalist first? And I think they largely go hand in hand, but I always wanted to start businesses from a very, very early age. And my family said, listen, there's a changing tide coming, and you may not always find the United States the best place to be. It turns out it didn't take very long, and I know there's some news out now with more U.S. imperialism that I think is making a lot of people leave. But for me, I sat in the United States and I said, I'm running businesses, I'm doing well, but the economy is slow, it's sluggish, it's if you believe the government, it's barely growing. If you believe reality, it's declining. And I looked as a traveler, I looked around in places I went to, and I said, it's amazing how much money people are making here. It's amazing the opportunity. There's just a smell in the air. There's something you can feel that things are happening here. And, I don't want to miss out on that. I see one of the most amazing transformations in modern history happening right now. That I think it's really what I call the new golden age. I think that sitting in the United States and dealing with fewer and fewer liberties, more and more taxes, is a bad thing. But not only that, there are so many places where you can go and prosper, running a business more freely, more easily, etc.
I have to agree, because I know a lot of my cohorts here throughout Latin America, and especially the people I deal with directly here in Costa Rica, say that Latin America, for example, is one of those new frontiers. Though there's a lot of bureaucracy, though there is a lot of red tape, it's not to the degree that a lot of people report in the United States that bureaucracy is almost crippling and really holds your business opportunity down. I have to say personally, having lived here in Latin America for 8 years now, there are businesses and opportunities that I'm involved in that simply would not have existed back in Canada or the U.S.
Well, you're absolutely right. And I think that, for example, there's two things I look at. One is, how easily can someone be an entrepreneur? There are certain businesses that, let's be honest, they are, radioactive waste in the United States and Canada, perhaps. Would you open a restaurant in the United States? I can't think of a worse business, really. But can you do that in places abroad? So, yes, there are people in the United States who throw their entire lives at running a restaurant and they barely get by. And you can go abroad and you can have a much better go at it. And so more people can be successful. But I also look at, when you talk about regulations, I know Latin America certainly moves at a little bit different pace than perhaps here in Asia. But I was talking to my friend Jeff Berwick from the Dollar Vigilante the other day, and we were both discussing how, there's a difference between regulations on the books and regulations that are followed. And so in the United States, you have this propaganda about how free things are, and yet regulatory agencies, unelected bureaucrats, all the way down the line, from the EPA to the FDA, the FTC, are all making all these mandates that businesses have to comply with, and they're accountable to nobody. Meanwhile, you go to countries around the world. I saw today Cambodia is saying that they're going to start cutting red tape to make it easier for businesses, and they're lowering fees and what have you. Well, that's obviously a good step, but I ask myself, what red tape? No one's dealing with that much red tape in Cambodia. People just do what they need to do. Things get done pretty easily. And, whatever regulations are on the books, it's a pretty easy place to do business. That's important.
I agree with you 100%. I mean, not to go off on a big tangent here, but look, I just realized that, the Obama administration in the U.S., one of the things they touted in their first election was about all of these shovel-ready projects that they had in order to boost the infrastructure and make things easier for business owners up there. And they earmarked nearly $1 billion, and nothing has happened with that other than spending all of that money going towards the EPA, as an example, to study the environmental impact of infrastructure improvement in the United States. I mean, so there is, again, this kind of intergovernment secular effect of, we're going to inject money into the United States and we're going to spend it on other agencies within the United States. We see a lot of bureaucracy and red tape and a lot of wasted spending here in Latin America, as you do with any government agency around the world, but nothing to that extreme. And I can imagine as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, kind of steeping in that scenario, that it would be endlessly frustrating. And you just say to yourself, look, maybe there's a better place in the world to go ahead and do what it is that I'm going to do.
Yeah, well, here's the funny thing. Americans, even some friends of mine, do the thing where they poo-poo certain countries around the world. You'll say, oh, hey, I was in Liechtenstein, and they kind of snicker. Listen, Liechtenstein is so much smaller. They can be much more efficient. They don't have to go around and police the world. They don't need however many gazillions of people are in in the U.S. military. They don't need any of that. I like insignificant small countries, but you know what? More importantly, what I've realized over the years is I spent 6 months. I learned a very important lesson from this. I was very young and stupid at the time. I spent 6 months living and consulting in Southern California, and I saw the bureaucracy there. It's the worst in the United States, so it's the worst of the worst. And you'd see how they take 5 years to build a freeway on-ramp. And then you drive up the freeway a couple hours, and you would go to Las Vegas, and you'd see Steve Wynn building the most phenomenal hotel and casino in 2 years. And people sit in the United States and they say, wow, that's really atrocious. That's horrible. We need to hold our government accountable. No, you need to find a government where they don't divert $1 billion to the EPA and where they say, listen, we're ready to go. We got the people ready to do the jobs. We're digging. We're not sitting around worried about the cactus wren and where we're building we're just doing what needs to be done. Obviously, I'd rather have more private involvement in building roads. And I mean, here in Jakarta, the horrible traffic is just another example of why we should have private agencies building roads. But nevertheless, at least things get done in the rest of the world. And so rather than sitting around and bemoaning it, I think that there are, 196 countries on Earth, a lot of them much more efficient than the one you're sitting in.
Yeah, and it really leads me to the point, though, because, for me personally, I have offshore accounts. I have offshore corporations, for example, in Panama, in Costa Rica. I do some work in Belize, but I also have an LLC in the United States as well. And it's funny because when I go back to Canada and I visit with friends and families and fellow members of the business community, a lot of them kind of, like you say, they sort of poo-poo the idea. They say, ooh, look at you with all your offshore corporations. You must be doing something shifty. And you have to ask yourself, how much of this is kind of government propaganda? How much is it the United States making their citizens feel like having any kind of offshore involvement is sketchy business?
Well, again, it comes, look at what they did to Mitt Romney. Again, do I really care who's running the United States? I don't. But look what happened. Here's a guy who's a pretty pragmatic businessman. Let's be honest. This guy is not some crazy lunatic. I look like a Till the Hun to infinity next to Mitt Romney. But, the reality is we are so steeped in government and societal brainwashing, and it's only getting worse in the United States. I talk about freedom being momentum-based. So when people say that Chile or the Philippines or any of these places that I recommend aren't good because of what happened there 30 years ago or 50 years ago or whatever, I say, yeah, they learned the lesson. They're moving in the right direction. The United States is now the Paris Hilton. I know, dated reference, but the Paris Hilton of countries. Someone 3 generations ago did something fantastic. It was so great that it's still dribbling down today, but except no one knows what it was that they did, and they don't know how to replicate it, and they don't care. And so I look at that and say, if people only stepped out of the brainwashed mindset, just step out of all the propaganda for one day, you would see so much. Just from everything from taxes being the price we pay for civilization. You go to Hong Kong and say corporations here aren't paying any tax if they're the right way, pretty civilized place. Or Monaco. You would go to China and say, oh, the FDA is protecting us by not allowing natural herbs and people to write weight loss cure books.
Right.
Oh, you mean everyone in this entire country believes everything about natural herbs and they're not taking Vioxx and Zoloft and all these drugs that are killing people? Oh, okay. So it's a very interesting point.
All right, we are speaking with Andrew Henderson, the Nomad capitalist, syndicated radio host, and global entrepreneur. We're going to take a quick break here and pay some of the bills. We're going to be right back on This Week in Costa Rica, only on the Overseas Radio Network.
So you want to jump out your trick bag and ease on into hip bag, but you ain't just exactly sure what's hip.
From China's Great Wall to the Leaning Tower of Pisa, this is the Overseas Radio Network.
You've got questions about Costa Rica, and Escape Artist has answers. Is Costa Rica a good fit for me and my plans? How do I buy a house, find a job, find a doctor, start a business, invest in real estate? What should I know to better appreciate its history, its culture, its opportunities? What's it really like to be an expat in Costa Rica? You'll find your answers at costarica.escapeartist.com, your complete and trusted guide for living, working, playing, investing, and retiring in Costa Rica. That's costarica.escapeartist.com.
You have never known a Costa Rica like this before. The new Crocs Casino Resort is soon to unveil its 4-star resort offering on the exclusive north end of Jacó Beach. Crocs Casino Resort will define the words gracious hospitality. Condominium residence owners and hotel guests alike will enjoy everything about resort living at Crocs Casino Resort. Soaring an impressive 17 stories, Crocs Casino Resort is now selling oceanfront studio, 1, 2, and 3-bedroom residences. Casual sophistication define these condominiums sitting high above the Pacific Ocean. Ascend from your private residence for restaurants, shopping, spa treatments, a sparkling resort pool, drinks, and dancing with friends at the hot Las Vegas style action of Crocs Casino. Come tour the Crocs Casino Resort condominium residences and let us celebrate with you as our newest owner. Visit us online at www.crocscasinoresort.com or call toll free at 1-800-590-0001. Welcome to the new Jacó Beach, Costa Rica. Welcome to Crocs Casino Resort.
Costa Rica is a magical tropical destination whose stunning natural beauty is matched only by the warm-hearted and peace-loving people who call this paradise home. The opportunities for investing, retirement, and vacation ownership here are some of the most dynamic on the planet, and the opportunities to own are as attractive today as they have ever been. Costa Rica Real Estate has established itself as the leader nationwide in helping to educate and guide clients toward the finest investment opportunities around the country. Allow the finest team in Costa Rica, whose commitment to honesty, integrity, and service is unmatched, help you realize the investment or vacation you have been dreaming of for a lifetime. Call today toll-free at 866-403-1345. That is 866-403-1345. Or go to our website, www.2costaricarealestate.com. That is the number 2, costaricarealestate.com. We are standing by to answer all your questions.
Overseasradio.com, broadcasting from Panama to Paris and beyond.
Welcome back to This Week in Costa Rica. We're having a great conversation with Andrew Henderson, the Nomad capitalist, about doing business abroad. And, we were speaking earlier about some of the restrictive regulations that are being imposed basically on a lot of Americans who really are, let's face it, about 85% of my listening audience that are tuning in and thinking, hey, the United States maybe isn't the place that I want to be. And furthermore, definitely not the place that I want to be doing business. I understand that. I get it because I've been living it for 8 years elsewhere, even as a Canadian. Definitely, we are taxed to death up there, and we are regulated like you wouldn't believe. And coming down to a place like Costa Rica and doing business and doing banking and doing all sorts of things has really been liberating. But to circle back to the initial conversation that we started having about FATCA, which is kind of under this Hire Act umbrella, it's making things very, very difficult for a lot of Americans abroad. And Andrew, you must be able to speak to this, where there are a lot of Americans now who really even can't even open up a foreign bank account. They're getting turned away at the door.
Well, it's very, very difficult. It's getting harder and harder. In fact, I wrote recently, I'm going to be in Singapore in 3 or 4 days. I wrote recently about how it's getting harder to open a bank account there. And let's understand what Singapore, for example, is. And it's the same with so many of these other countries, Liechtenstein, to a lesser extent, Costa Rica, what have you. Singapore is less than 300 square miles. It's a country that basically the British came and said it's a malarial swamp. They broke off from what was then Malaya, Malaysia, 50-some years ago. And so what do they have to do to be competitive? Just to sit there and just to be a little postage-size stamp of land, they can't afford to do that. They had to say, hey, bring us your money. What do we need to do to get that to happen? And so they did. And now things are getting so bad with the U.S. government and their financial imperialism that country is even saying, some of their banks are saying, you know what, we can't take you. Now, it's still possible to open accounts in Singapore. I was just talking to friends of mine who were doing that the other day. But, I mean, a lot of places from Liechtenstein to Switzerland, the Channel Islands, some of the banks in Andorra, pretty much all of Luxembourg, pretty much everywhere in Europe, with the exception of a few countries, have shut the door on Americans. And even those that are, allowing them, you earn no interest, or you have to deposit $500,000. And basically, the United States is using its big billy club to go around and beat everyone into submission to do its will and to sign these IGAs, as happened with Costa Rica recently. And apparently, the message hasn't gotten back to Capitol Hill that the influence of the United States is dwindling, but unfortunately, neither has that message gotten to some of these other countries either.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, I mean, what they're ultimately doing is just raising that barrier to entry and making it more difficult for people to do business abroad. Still not impossible, which really leads me to the next point, is that you and I are going to be spending a little bit of time together in the great city of Las Vegas at the beginning of next year because you've organized a conference. What's going on up there?
Well, so what I've done is, after traveling the world for years and traveling those many, many miles, I've become a collector of some great information, secrets, as I would say, freedom secrets on everything from the best place to open an offshore bank account to how to structure a corporation to just how to bypass the immigration line at an airport. And so what I've done is I've taken 12 or 15 of the best people from my Rolodex, people I've met over the years, and put them on one stage. By popular demand, we're going to be in the city of Las Vegas, so it's easy for everyone in the U.S. to come. The event is called Passport to Freedom, and basically everyone from Peter Schiff, who's an offshore banking expert, as well as the great prognosticator that you see on CNBC all the time, Bobby Casey, who's the Joel Nagel, asset protection guys, Jeff Berwick from your native land as well, the dollar vigilante, talking about how to survive but also prosper from the decline of the dollar. Everything you need if you're someone who's saying, listen, I want to protect myself from the nonsense going on in the U.S. Or, you know what? I don't even want to deal with it anymore. I'm packing my bags. Where do I go? Someone help me put all the pieces together. And so the theme of the event is fight or flight. Do you want to stay and just protect yourself and be ready for the collapse? Or do you want to go somewhere else and do the things that I'm talking about, investing overseas, starting businesses in other countries, opening offshore bank accounts that make 5 or 10% interest. We're going to cover all of that, plus Bitcoin, just everything that you need to survive and prosper through these tough times. And I know if they go to your website, Corey, they can check out more information on that. So we've got a very limited number of seats because it's going to be a very intimate event. I'm hoping that it's not almost too intimate, but I think you're going to have a great opportunity to interact with all the speakers. This is not cramming 500 people into a ballroom. It's going to be very, very intimate, and you're going to want to bring a legal pad and take notes on all of these topics. And by the way, second passports, obviously, as well. Jeff Berwick will speak on that. David Lesperance, the Canadian attorney, who is probably the best of the best, he'll be discussing it. As well as how to get residence in Paraguay. We'll actually be helping people do that. So they can go to your site and find out more about that, and I think it'll be a great time. And you'll be there, of course, too, right, Corey?
I'm going to be there, and I'm going to be speaking. I'm super excited about this because, look, I mean, this straight up is really a meeting of the minds, some of the greatest experts in all of these fields. And I get a lot of email here on the program, Andrew, people who are interested in traveling abroad, specifically coming down to Costa Rica or Latin America. And many young couples, many young entrepreneurs, they don't want to come down here and just retire. They want to come down at 35, 40 years old and start up a new business and get engaged in other entrepreneurial activities. And look, you got to know before you go. And I have to say that even for me as a global entrepreneur and somebody who's been living and working in Latin America, the opportunity to just press the flesh and pick some of the brains at this conference is going to be straight up phenomenal.
And I think what's also important is for people who do want to find somewhere to go. I dealt with this because I've been a traveler pretty much my whole adult life. Before I did what I do now, I had a home base. I traveled as much as 6, 7, 8 months a year, ran businesses from both the U.S. and while I was traveling. And so now I live a perpetual traveler lifestyle. But people ask, hey, Andrew, listen, I've got $2,000 a month. Where do I go? Or what part of the world do you think is best for me? And so one of the things that we're going to be doing is saying, okay, let's discuss pros and cons of Asia, Latin America, Europe, Eastern Europe. Where are the different places you can go? What are you looking for? People, I think, they want to have a sense of confidence in the places that they want to look at relocating to or investing in. And obviously, the things that you and I talk about are diversifying. I love Cambodia as an investment. Obviously, you need to put a lot of time in there on the ground. Maybe you want to have a residence somewhere else as well that's a little bit more livable with the luxury shopping or, the better airport or whatever the case may be. So how do you structure those things so that you have businesses in one place, you're investing over here, you're banking over here? That's all very important stuff.
I'm with you because on a personal note, as much as I do love Costa Rica and enjoy being a resident of this great country, I do want to travel more and look at some other opportunities. And I'm currently looking at spending some time in either Cambodia or Vietnam because, I mean, it's such a great opportunity. It's just such a burgeoning market. And for those willing to take on the challenge, the opportunities abound.
Absolutely. The saying goes, successful people do what unsuccessful people won't. And I think that you look at some of these, again, listen, you know what? I've been a contrarian my entire life, Corey. I mean, I was like the 16-year-old who acted like he was 45, so I was a contrarian even then. But I've managed businesses and I built successful businesses over the years in the U.S. and now as a traveler by going against the grain. And I think that, let people say Cambodia is not the place to go. There are plenty of people singing its praises, but I think that a lot of people are still waiting for things to, I don't know what they're waiting for, but if you're willing to go and do the things that other people aren't willing to do, I think there's amazing profit. The reality is that the United States, Canada, places like that are some of the most competitive marketplaces in the world. Businesses get crushed every day. And I think if a lot of those people looked at other places that were less saturated, they could have a lot more success.
Well, I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there. I would love to carry on this conversation another day and talk a little bit more about the lifestyle aspects of this as well and how this can be beneficial to people's happiness and to their health more than just their financial well-being. But like I say, we got to leave it there because this is the end of the program. Andrew Henderson, thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Thanks, Corey.
And thank you guys for listening. Of course, you can find all the information at thisweekincostarica.com. If you're interested in that conference, of course, there are going to be links to that over there as well. You can find us on Twitter, on Facebook. I kind of spent a little bit of time on Google+, but not too much, to be honest with you. And please don't forget that if you have been listening live today, this show is available in podcast form. So you can go ahead and subscribe for free and never miss another episode. It's just going to magically appear on your iPhone or your iPad or in your computer or wherever it is you choose to consume podcasts. Thank you so much for listening this week. I got to run here. Stick around, guys. We do have Columbia Calling with Richard McCall up next. But you have been listening to This Week in Costa Rica only on the Overseas Radio Network.
So you want to jump out your trick bag and ease on into hip bag, but you ain't just exactly sure what's hip.
Ready to learn about a new life overseas? You're at the right place. This is the Overseas Radio Network.